Hello and welcome to Crash CSS, your dedicated YouTube channel for mastering CSS with clarity, confidence, and controlled panic. I'm Alina, and today we begin our journey into the refined art of Precis writing, a skill that looks harmless on paper, but quietly decides the fate of many CSS attempts. Let us begin with the obvious yet often misunderstood question: what exactly is a précis? The word précis, pronounced précis, comes from French and literally means precision or exactness. In the CSS exam, it means taking a passage of around 300 words and compressing it into roughly 1/3 of its length without losing the central meaning, tone, or logical flow. This does not mean shrinking sentences violently like luggage at airport security. It means refining meaning with discipline. A précis is not your opinion, not a list of bullet points, and not a lazy trimming exercise. It is the intellectual art of distillation. The examiner tests this skill because précis writing is not merely a test of English, it is a test of thought. It examines how clearly you understand complex ideas, how logically you reorganize them, and how effectively you express them under pressure. It combines comprehension, structure, and concise expression. A summary lists points, but a précis reads like a miniature essay with internal coherence. Think of it this way. When you explain a long editorial to a friend in 2 lines without misrepresenting it, your brain is already doing précis work. Mastering this skill will not only raise your CSS score, but also sharpen every report, summary, and official note you write in future. In the CSS examination, précis writing appears as question 2 of the English Précis and composition paper and carries 20 marks. This is not accidental. The Commission places it at the very beginning to test your analytical sharpness before mental fatigue sets in. The passage given is usually between 300 and 350 words and is taken from serious nonfiction such as philosophy, sociology, economics, or political analysis. In other words, you are not summarizing a bedtime story. You are compressing argument, abstraction, and layered reasoning. Your duty is to reduce that passage to nearly 1/3 of its length while preserving its meaning, tone, and logical structure. This balancing act is what makes précis writing both an art and a science. The examiner primarily judges 3 things: whether your meaning is accurate, whether your expression is brief without being skeletal, and whether your language is clear and independent. A good précis should read as if it were originally written in short form. Along with the précis, you must also provide a suitable title. Those few words carry surprising weight because they reveal instantly whether you truly understood the passage. A confused title is like mislabeling a medicine bottle. Even if the content inside is decent, the first impression is already damaged. Students often treat this question lightly as a warm-up. In reality, it is the psychological gatekeeper of the entire paper. A strong start here stabilizes confidence. A weak one creates exam anxiety that no vocabulary list can repair. Good précis writing is never accidental. It follows a method that protects you from confusion and panic. The first step is to read the passage purely for meaning, not for difficult words. At this stage, your only question should be, what is the author actually saying? Not what each sentence says, but what the whole passage means. The second step is to identify the structure. Most passages follow a natural flow of introduction, development, and conclusion. Each paragraph usually contributes one core idea to the overall argument. The third step is to select key ideas and discard the rest. Examples, data, names, and illustrations are usually supportive and should be represented, not reproduced. The fourth step is drafting in your own words. This is where students often slip because the brain likes to borrow ready-made phrases. A good précis never sounds like the original in miniature. It sounds like a fresh reconstruction of the same thought. The fifth step is checking the length repeatedly, because one extra sentence can quietly push you off the 1/3 limit. The final step is revision for logic and flow. The sentence order must feel natural, and transitions must guide the reader smoothly. Here is the honest truth. Précis writing is 70% method and 30% language. When the method is strong, even average vocabulary performs well. When the method is weak, even brilliant English collapses into disorder. One of the most difficult mental shifts in Précis writing is learning to separate what is essential from what is decorative. Students often fall in love with examples and forget the argument that those examples were meant to serve. A useful image is to think of the passage as a forest rather than a collection of trees. A Précis describes the forest, not each leaf struggling for individual attention. When you read a paragraph, always ask why it exists. If it exists to assert a claim, that claim must survive. If it exists to support a claim with illustrations, then the illustration itself can quietly disappear while the reasoning remains. If an author discusses a thinker's courage through multiple historical incidents, your Précis does not need to host a parade of those incidents. One tightly worded sentence expressing that courage is enough. Tone discipline is equally important. If the author is neutral, your tone must remain neutral. If the author is critically analytical, your tone must mirror that seriousness without exaggeration. You are not allowed to become more dramatic than the writer, no matter how emotionally persuasive the passage feels. This ability to separate core from detail is not just an examination skill. It is the same skill demanded in official summaries, cabinet briefs, and research synopses. In short, Précis writing trains you to think like a civil servant long before you become one. Paraphrasing is the heart of Précis writing, and also its most misunderstood component. It does not mean replacing a few words with synonyms from a dictionary that looks impressive but sounds suspicious. True paraphrasing means changing the structure, rhythm, and wording of a sentence while keeping its meaning intact. If the original sentence is long and layered, your version may be shorter and more direct. If the original relies on passive constructions, your version may shift into active voice. The goal is conceptual loyalty with linguistic independence. Strong single words should replace weak word clusters wherever possible. Formal tone must be preserved because casual language in an academic Précis feels as awkward as wearing slippers to a formal interview. Coherence is also essential. Many students write grammatically correct sentences that refuse to cooperate with each other. Each sentence in a Précis must naturally lead into the next. A Précis is not a verbal jigsaw puzzle where the pieces barely fit. After drafting, always compare your version with the original. Ask yourself honestly whether you added anything of your own or deleted something essential. If either has happened, revise immediately. Paraphrasing is not decoration. It is disciplined control over meaning, and that control is exactly what the examiner rewards. After completing the Précis, the task that many students treat casually is giving the title. In reality, the title is the intellectual signature of your Précis. It is the first signal the examiner receives about your level of comprehension. A weak title suggests a weak grasp even before the body is examined. A good title is short, thematic, and precise. It captures the entire argument in a handful of words without sounding poetic or vague. Writing the title before writing the Précis is like naming a newborn before seeing the baby. It is risky and often misleading. Always finalize your title after completing the Précis, when the central idea is fully clear in your mind. Avoid decorative cleverness. CSS examiners are not hunting for metaphors, they are hunting for meaning. If a passage discusses balance between freedom and discipline in education, your title should reflect exactly that balance. It should not wander off into philosophical riddles that require interpretation. The title carries only a few marks numerically, but psychologically it carries great weight. A sharp title creates immediate confidence in the examiner's mind. A confusing one raises suspicion. Think of your title as a professional handshake. It should be firm, clear, and purposefully directed. Length control is not a technical footnote in Précis writing. It is a central discipline. The standard requirement is 1/3 of the original passage. A Précis that is too short signals weak comprehension, while a Précis that is too long signals weak selection. Both cost marks, quietly but reliably. Structurally, your Précis must form one cohesive paragraph. It should carry the internal rhythm of an essay in miniature. The opening sentence introduces the main argument. The following sentences develop the key ideas. The final sentence concludes or reinforces the central insight. This proportional balance is what makes your Précis feel complete rather than truncated. Word economy plays a decisive role here. Long phrases should be replaced with compact equivalents, and verbal padding must be removed mercilessly. Many students lose control of length not because they lack understanding, but because they lack linguistic discipline. Another subtle balance is distribution of importance. No single idea should consume most of your word count unless the original passage itself is heavily skewed. When proportion is maintained, the examiner feels that the candidate not only understood the message but also respected the structure. Précis writing is not just about writing well, it is about writing well within time. In the CSS paper, it is the first question, yet many candidates surrender to it emotionally and give it more time than it deserves. The result is rushed performance in later questions. During your initial reading, your focus should remain on overall meaning rather than unfamiliar vocabulary. The examiner is not testing your dictionary memory, but your comprehension of argument. As you draft, write neatly and leave space between lines. Presentation influences perception far more than students wish to believe. A neatly written average Précis often outperforms a brilliant but messy one. A powerful mental exercise is to imagine explaining the passage orally to someone in 2 or 3 minutes. That spoken explanation usually contains the most natural form of the Précis. Training yourself with timed practice gradually removes fear from the process and replaces it with control. Finishing slightly early is not wasted time, it is revision capital. Reading your Précis backward, sentence by sentence, helps you catch errors that the forward-reading brain politely ignores. Time discipline is not about rushing. It is about rhythm and command. The most dangerous mistakes in Précis writing are not loud blunders. They are subtle leaks that slowly drain marks. Direct copying from the original passage exposes weak language control immediately. Distorting the author's meaning by inserting personal opinion violates the very purpose of a Précis. Including too many examples clutters clarity, while ignoring cohesion creates a paragraph that feels stitched together without internal logic. Misleading titles do disproportionate damage because they signal misunderstanding before the examiner even reaches the body. Grammar errors stand out sharply in a short paragraph because there is nowhere for them to hide. Ignoring the prescribed word limit reflects indiscipline rather than ignorance. These mistakes often appear small to students, but look decisive to examiners who read thousands of scripts. The good news is that every one of these errors is avoidable through conscious practice. Precision is not talent, it is trained control. Précis writing is not a trick you memorize. It is a habit you develop. Every practice session trains your mind to filter meaning, compress argument, and express thought with discipline. Serious improvement comes when you compare your Précis honestly with the original and identify exactly where clarity improved or meaning slipped. Repeated revision is uncomfortable because it exposes weak thinking, but it is the only path to mastery. Over time, summarizing becomes instinctive rather than stressful. This skill extends far beyond the exam. In professional life, you will be required to reduce long discussions into short briefs that influence decisions. A well-trained Précis mind becomes priceless there. As you conclude this module with Crash CSS, remember the deeper lesson behind the technique. Précis writing is not about writing less. It is about thinking better. When you can express much in little without distortion, you demonstrate control over language and thought simultaneously. And that is the true mark of a CSS-level mind. As we close today's lesson on the art and science of Précis writing, remember that real mastery is built through consistent practice and guided learning, not one video at a time. If this lesson added clarity, confidence, or even a small shift in how you think about summarizing ideas, then your next step is simple and powerful. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you never miss what's coming next. Your support directly fuels more structured, exam-focused, and concept-driven lessons for CSS and beyond. In the next video, we will look into more important topics of the Precis and composition exam, including advanced techniques and examiner-oriented practice. Stay connected, stay disciplined, and let's continue building precision in thinking, one lesson at a time.